And then, unable to bear the situation, Candice interrupted the couple's conversation and joined them. Since then, the conversation continued without interruption. No, while I was distracted, they cowardly attacked me from behind. I felt a presence behind me, and by the time I turned around, it was too late. So, I thought, this is how I'm going to die. And then, just at that moment, a savior appeared. Natalia closed her eyes in ecstasy, remembering the moment when the girl in the hat with the white lace ribbon appeared before her eyes. Even thinking back, it was a magnificent scene, like the climax of a play. A girl who looked to be about 13 or 14 years old appeared, brandishing a dagger, and subdued the cowardly pirate who had tried to ambush me in one fell swoop. Even though I saw it with my own eyes, it seemed like a dream to me. When he finished his story with a dazed expression, everyone exclaimed, "Oh," as if in amazement. Except for one person, Roderick. A young girl of 13 or 14 years old, and a dagger. An expert fighter capable of subduing pirates instantly. Because those three key words reminded him of Isla. What did that girl look like? What color was her hair? What color were his eyes? Where did you say you were going? When Roderick suddenly asked excitedly, Natalia became nervous, but instinctively remembered the girl's appearance. I couldn't see his hair because he had his hat pulled down too low. His eyes were blue. Of an intense navy color. We couldn't talk. I was about to thank him, but he disappeared while talking to the captain. She answered as best she could, and Roderick, apparently dissatisfied with the answer, bombarded her again with questions. Where did that ship come from and where was it going? It was a merchant ship leaving the Palace Empire bound for the Kingdom of Inselkuf. The Kingdom of Inselkuf. Roderick sank into thought without saying a word. Could that girl really be Isla? If so, did Byron sneak into Inselkuf's kingdom? And why? Questions kept coming to his mind one after another. Roderick, what's wrong? It's so strange. At that suspicious sight, Candice elbowed Roderick in the side, but Roderick did not respond. At first, Ophelia found her husband's strange reaction strange, but little by little she seemed to realize something. But... At that point, Austin cautiously raised his hand, saying he wasn't sure if it was okay for him to get involved. Actually, I briefly saw the girl entering the cabin. His hair was silver, with some sticking out from under his hat. Silver hair and blue eyes. There was a moment of silence. Everyone except Austin, who didn't understand anything, realized what had happened. That the girl could be Isla. It was the day he decided to go to the festival with Gerald. Isla finished her preparations for the outing by putting on a cap that covered her entire head. Laura, as always, tied a ribbon around his head and told him to never take it off. And when she left the annex, escorted by Cloud, Gerald, very well dressed, was waiting for her with an elegant carriage. "Have a safe trip, miss," Cloud said, gripping Isla's shoulder so hard it hurt. His eyes were filled with worry as he looked at her. She couldn't understand what was troubling him. Was he really worried about her, even if it seemed out of place, or was he suspicious of her? "Yes, I will return." Isla approached the carriage, leaving behind Cloud, whose thoughts she had no idea. As she approached, Gerald smiled and held out his hand, offering to escort her to the carriage. But Isla pretended not to notice the hand and went up. Alone. Having learned the etiquette of a noble, she knew that her actions were impolite, but she did not wish to be polite to someone like Gerald. Gerald frowned as he ignored her offer. His pride was clearly hurt. But he forced a smile and followed her to the carriage. He couldn't waste his long hunger strike, his hard-won opportunity, by getting angry just because she refused to come with him. Gerald, sitting opposite Isla, signaled to the coachman, and the carriage quickly drove off smoothly. "The weather is nice, right?" As she looked out the window with her chin resting on her hand, Gerald approached, apparently embarrassed. In such sticky heat, I didn't understand why I was doing it again. Yeah. It was true that the weather was good, so he answered briefly. The sunlight was shining dazzlingly and the sky was clear. A fresh spring breeze, scented with flowers, made it the perfect weather for an excursion. It would have been great if the person I was hanging out with hadn't been Gerald. It will take about 2 hours to reach the capital by carriage. Yeah. 2 hours alone in that narrow carriage with Gerald. It was a little annoying, but he had endured hiding on the floor of the car with Byron, so it was bearable. Gerald kept jabbering and talking about nonsense, but the conversation didn't last long. She looked out the window and gave short answers. It was quite pleasant to listen to his loquacious words and contemplate the exotic landscape that stretched outside the window. It seemed like it was the first time in his life that he was free from the surveillance of Byron and his gang. Since she hadn't escaped, she felt no pressure to get back in before they caught her, and she didn't need to smile brightly to please Byron. And it was something I didn't understand, but I had a good feeling since the morning. He had a feeling good luck was coming. Isla couldn't predict how lucky she would be with a guy like Gerald. As time passed, Gerald became silent, perhaps tired of talking to himself. Isla looked at him out of the corner of her eye, wondering what he was doing, and he touched the inside pocket of his coat with an anxious expression. There seemed to be something important in that pocket. Seeing him restless, something seemed suspicious, so Isla turned and sat up to look at Gerald. That? What do I have on my face? Furthermore, when her gaze fell on him, her eyes tingled and her feet trembled, which was extremely suspicious. No. Isla didn't know what the hell he was up to, but she sensed that he had some plan, so she thought she should keep a close eye on him. Meanwhile, the carriage arrived at the capital. Colorful decorations hung everywhere on the street, and street musicians played lively music. The crowd, apparently animated, bought food from street vendors and chatted animatedly. Seeing that, Isla realized that she was at the festival she had only heard about. It was a sight that made her heart pound, and also excited. He wanted to get out of the carriage and try everything. I wanted to see the products from the street stalls and taste the delicacies that everyone was holding. However, the carriage carrying her passed without stopping on the festival street. Won't you get off? Isn't this the festival site? When Isla asked with a puzzled expression, Gerald responded with a shocked face. I'm not even a commoner. How can I hang out with commoners? Wait. I'll take you somewhere cool. What the hell was this nonsense? Clearly, it was Gerald who suggested they go to the festival first. If he wasn't going to go, why had he brought her to the capital? Isla didn't understand where this cool place was. As he squinted and watched Gerald's suspicious behavior, the carriage moved a little further and entered an upscale residential area. While it had an aristocratic and elegant atmosphere, it felt quite different from the festival itself. It seemed like a completely different world from the street I had just passed. Here, get off. When the carriage stopped, Gerald got out first and held out his hand. Isla stubbornly ignored her escort and went down alone, looking around. She didn't understand why he had brought her to a place like this. Wait for me a moment. Denied escort not once, but twice, Gerald coughed awkwardly and walked away from her toward the knights. He then lowered his voice and whispered something to the knights as he handed them something. At her suspicious behavior, Isla pretended not to hear her and concentrated on the conversation. She and I will be at this cafe, so let's go have something. Yeah? Young master, that's a bit. Take this and hurry. I told you I wouldn't go anywhere else, right? I'll stay here. You know this neighborhood is safe, right? I told you I don't need you to watch him. What he forcibly handed over to the knights was nothing other than a bag full of gold coins. It's getting more and more suspicious. What are you trying to do, sending knights and taking so many precautions to be left with just the two of them?